Okay, welcome back in August 4th, 2022. So we're going to take a look at the NASDAQ futures here. Intraday, midday review. We're kind of post-market now, but post-market for intraday, that is. So 4 o'clock East time, but it's about 2:12 right now. So the market has closed, and we're just going to follow up on the morning impressions. Just to keep things standard here, I think it's always good to do a post-market review, even though it says midday review. All right, and there's something else I wanted to talk about too. I thought about this when we were doing the morning impression, is that most times I do put the on balance volume, and that's that purple line that's going on in here. And I feel like it can be helpful, and there's a couple of points in this trend that it would have been really, really helpful, and I've marked those off, and I'd like to review that. But let's just review this kind of slow, relatively mute kind of day that's been going on now. So looking at the 2-hour chart, this is our 2-hour chart that we're working with here, and we're looking at the NASDAQ. Oh, the major symbol here, because sometimes it's a little simpler to look at that symbol. Oops, and that's not why I put MNQ on here, even though I play MNQ on my 10-minute chart. But we were getting a relatively decent divergence that was going on here. A couple of things to talk about. So we had this kind of 3-point. It looked like a 3-point major or relatively good divergence. Actually, 2-point relatively good divergence. I would almost couple these together in a way, although this is one good point of reference, and these are kind of clustered in as a reference point. So it was tough, but we did have that divergence that was happening here. But so now looking across several sessions that are going on right now, we're still getting a little bit of a divergence that's happening, even though price looks like it's kind of creeping a little bit higher along that 1.2 deviation from the control price, and we had established that this control price looks a little bit better than the previous chart that I was working with. This divergence is still present, so but the on balance volume is still relatively high. But is this kind of flattening out? It's hard to tell. But we'll discuss on balance volume in a second, because that's something that I wanted to get into. So let's pull this across here and see if we can get a better look at the channel for the time being. So we are operating at the 1.25 of this control price, and again, it was readjusted. This channel was readjusted. So previously it looked like it was up near the 325. 6, half dozen or the other, it doesn't really matter. If it's at the 325, even better with a divergence, a happy divergence present. But here's our 125 and our 225, just so that we've got it at least on this chart that also has the on balance volume. So what we had discussed earlier in the morning impressions was that we were going to wait. Let me bring in the 10-minute chart so that we're on the same page here. It looked like it could be a little bit heavy, and we said that we would wait for the 5-day moving average and this anchored volume weighted average price. I opened up the day thinking that it was a risky assessment to get on the short side, but I went short anyway. Not only did I go short in the area that we thought looked pretty good to be a buyer, since we made a good chunk of cheddar on this quick sell-off, I didn't get on the other foot. I didn't. I kept, I kept the profits, and I didn't go the other way, just because this active bearish divergence from one session leading into the next. I thought that this might cut down a little bit further, but it didn't. So When it approached this area and looked like it stabilized, you could have went the other way. I mean, absolutely, probably could have and should have went the other way on this, because it looked like a good area to buy. At least that first test of that anchored volume weighted average price. But boy, we didn't really clear out the high today at all. So this is going to be, a tomorrow's assessment too, to see if this is going to start to lose strength on the buy side. Even though price action has been working its way up, I'm going to monitor that 2-hour divergence that's still there along with 1.25. So keeping the profits in the pocket aside, let's talk about on balance volume alongside divergences. A little hard to see this on balance volume here, but there are a couple of places that I was really interested in when it came to on balance volume alongside a healthy divergence on the 2-hour. So can on balance volume be helpful with professional buying divergences and a channel? So always with a control price, have to have a healthy control price. And let's see if we can mark this up so I can find those areas that I was really interested in. We can do it here. We'll do it here. Here are a couple of very interesting places that I found with on balance volume to be helpful with professional buying divergences. So we had a nice divergence that was happening here over the 3 or 4 day sell-off on this last healthy bullish divergence. One thing that I noticed with on balance volume is that even though price was moving down, on balance volume seemed to not follow, or seemed to be helpful in a manner of speaking, that the volume stayed pretty static in this area. So healthy divergence, prices moving down, professional buying indicators moving up, and this look at this on balance volume right here might have been a helpful indicator to let us know that this was a really good bullish divergence. Where else could the on balance volume have been a healthy indicator alongside a bullish divergence? So let's look back at the beginning of this trend, where we had a nice bullish divergence happening here, especially with order of magnitude at least. This divergence looked really, really good. It was a 2-point divergence. You can almost call it a 3-point divergence where bulls broke above that 0 line, but this divergence looked really, really good, just by way of magnitude. So what was the on balance volume doing at the same time that we were getting this bullish divergence? So we had another healthy indicator on the on balance volume that was moving alongside the bullish divergence of the professional buying. So while price is moving down, the on balance volume is moving up. Price is moving down, on balance volume is more or less staying static at this line up here. I'll call it 5 million or something like that. And this is another method that Larry Williams uses too. So in his teaching, his training, he also likes to couple the on balance volume as well. So here's another area too where we saw probably corresponding bullish divergence with a more stabilizing, I guess that's the word I would use, a more stabilized indicator on the on balance volume. Is on balance volume itself a very good indicator of direction, whether it's going to be a breakout to the upside or the downside? I mean, I don't think so. I mean, that's why I haven't used it quite often. But I think coupled with the professional buying indicator. I think this is going to be really helpful for identifying when the market is going to break one direction or the other. So we got that stabilizing look on the on-balance volume. Looks like accumulation, and that's what we're looking for, right? Accumulation, not distribution. So bullish. These three things look, or these two things look pretty darn bullish, and it turns out that it was. It was pretty darn bullish. So did we have? So on this bearish. This one really didn't give a clear indicator or a clear indication on the professional buying. And I'm not sure that we got, well, I guess you could say here with the on balance volume, the price was moving up and our on balance volume was not moving in the same direction. And then we did have a pretty darn good sell-off, but the professional buying indicator really didn't peg this one too well. Although we did see a very minute higher high while the market was moving up. So I mean that would have been a tricky one, but that's an interesting look at on balance volume and professional buying on the 2-hour with the channel up near that 1.2. And did we establish that channel prior to that? No, we didn't. So the channel was established back here in here. This is where we established that control price. So this would have been a really tricky one. So we get into this area again where price is selling off. We're making lower lows on price action, and what we're getting on the professional buying indicator is a nice divergence. So then what do we have in here with on balance volume? Does it look more accumulative? And this might have been helpful in this area to peg this bullish move to the upside. Okay, well, let's look at another either bearish or bullish divergence on the chart to see what we can see here. So we had a nice bearish divergence going on in this area. Could this have been helpful from an unbalanced volume perspective that the market was going to switch? We continued right along with unbalanced volume to match the higher highs with off of this bullish divergence. We continue to match these higher the leg up. So I don't know that this would have been totally helpful, but having 2 of 2 would have been really nice. But we did see that divergence here, and then we cut below the zero line, and that could have been a nice sell if you were on the sell side here. So did we get a corresponding bullish divergence near that 2.25 or 1.25? So we're selling off here, and this was very minor. I think we did have this marked off. It was a very minor 2-session, I think. It shows 4 days, but this is 1, 2, it was about 3 into 4 days, but not quite 4 days. But this looked like a better buying opportunity down here with this bullish divergence. It was very minor, but better buying opportunities near the 2.25 and the 1.25. So I think you probably could have fought that one off. I think that we did when we were playing this. So let's get a little zoom in here and see if there's another way that we can utilize on-balance volume with the current market set. So on-balance volume following the trend up here. But is there anything that would indicate that this market is ready to sell off? So healthy bearish divergence happening right now up near the 1.25. This makes me skeptical to begin with to be a buyer, and I said that earlier this morning. Being up, whether it's a 325 or a 125 deviation from the control price, and I do like this control price a little bit better. Is there something in the on-balance volume that would help help us get that 2 of 2 or 3 confluences. 125, really sticky near that 1.25. Strong over control price, buzzing over the volume weighted average price. We did tag a volume weighted average price down here to give us another confluence to work with. Still blazing above that anchored volume average price. I mean, it is. We don't always get the OBV to match. Volume is quite high here. I mean, with that divergence there, I'm still not comfortable being a buyer up that high. I think we're going to wait, see what the 5 DMA does probably tomorrow, and see what buyers want to do in this minor channel that we're working with here, but also being mindful of both things. The 2-hour channel and obviously this very minor one that we're working with on the 10-minute chart. I think I'm probably going to wait. I'm going to wait for the 5 DMA and see what bulls want to do around there, or what buyers want to do around there. But we're looking pretty decent, I would feel like, on the sell side. Anchored volume average price, nice first test of that, 1.25, 5 DMA moving up. We did peg that earlier. We'll continue to operate under divergences, even one session to the next on a 10-minute. It's not as helpful, but as the 2-hour, but still pretty darn helpful. Then we've got all these things everywhere on this chart. 18-day moving average, we're well above that. I got to think that we would want to meet up with that at some point. Okay, so far as post-market analysis goes, it's a sticky area, but this market is really strong presently, and maybe sellers are hoping or betting on that. I don't know. As buyers continue to push this up, and we get more of a distributive look. I mean, this doesn't reek of distribution just yet, but we had a little bit of selling going on today. And we're going to find out in tomorrow's morning impressions when we get a little bit more data to work with. If it ended right now, I'll be weary. I'll be weary across the board in either regard, as a buyer and a seller. But the market's up, so follow the trend. I mean, betting against it is a tough thing to do at this point. I follow the direction. That's what I would do. Follow the direction. We didn't take the direction earlier like we probably should have at that first test at the volume weighted average price, but we made a pretty good lick for playing a contract and for doing what we said we're going to do, which is it's something we're doing in our Discord channel, which is can you make $100 to $200 a day intraday, just strictly intraday trading? That's 8 a.m. Eastern time to 4 p.m. Eastern time. Can you $100 to $200 a day? We did that without an issue today on the opening session. First 30 minutes, could have made you money and got out. So thanks for tuning in. Join us on Discord if you want. It's in the discussion or in the description here. So come and join the discussion with us. Speculate. We've got plenty of information on commitment of traders, summer report. It's something that we follow along with and learn from Larry Williams. You should definitely go over and visit Larry Williams' channel too if you haven't done that. He's quite the trader. Okay, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.